My wife, Celeste, is rushing around the house grabbing her guitar case and car keys, telling me she's running late for her music class again. This has become such a routine over the past 6 months that I barely look up from my laptop anymore. She kisses my cheek quickly, that obligatory peck that feels more like checking a box than affection, and heads for the door, calling out that she'll be back around 9 or 10. I hear the garage door open and my car engine start because she always takes mine. Says hers has been making weird noises, though I've offered a dozen times to get it checked. I go back to answering work emails in our living room. And maybe 15 minutes pass before my phone lights up with a notification. Unknown number. No message. Just a photo attachment. I almost delete it, thinking it's spam, but something makes me open it instead. And what I see makes my hands start shaking so badly I almost drop the phone. It's Celeste. My wife of 7 years. Standing outside a small music studio. And she's kissing another man. Not a quick, friendly kiss, but a real one. Intimate and familiar. His hand on her waist, her fingers in his hair. And the timestamp shows it was taken literally 10 minutes ago. I zoom in on the photo with trembling fingers, trying to find some explanation that makes this not what it obviously is. Trying to convince myself it's photoshopped, or a case of mistaken identity. But the reflection in the studio window confirms everything. I can see her face clearly. Can see the coat she was wearing when she left. Can see the guitar case she's holding, the same distinctive purple case I bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago. And I can see her smile. That bright, genuine smile I haven't seen directed at me in months, maybe longer, if I'm being honest with myself. She looks happy in a way that makes my chest tighten. Looks free, and alive, and nothing like the distant stranger who's been living in our house, pretending everything is fine. And I notice other details too. The way she's leaning into him, comfortable and natural. The way his arm wraps around her like it's done this 1,000 times before. This isn't new. This isn't some impulsive mistake. This is established. This is routine. This is what my wife does when she tells me she's going to music class. I sit alone in our living room, staring at nothing, and suddenly, months of weirdness start making horrible sense. All those late nights she explained away as extra practice sessions, all the cancelled plans because she was too tired from lessons, all the times she seemed emotionally checked out. Distant. Like her mind was somewhere else, even when her body was sitting right next to me on this couch. I remember how she started dressing differently for these classes. Wearing makeup and perfume for what she claimed was just sitting in a practice room with an instructor. I remember how protective she became of her phone. How she'd angle the screen away when I walked by. How she started sleeping with it under her pillow. I remember conversations that died the moment I entered rooms. Music playlists she wouldn't let me listen to. Inside jokes I didn't understand. And I'd chalked it all up to stress, to her finding a new hobby, to me being paranoid and insecure. But I wasn't paranoid. I was willfully blind. Choosing to believe her lies, because confronting the truth felt impossible. The rage I expected doesn't come. Instead, something colder settles into my bones. Something calculating, and clear. I don't call her. Don't text demanding explanations. Don't drive to that studio to confront them both. Instead, I walk to my office and pull out a notebook. The leather one I use for important work projects. And I start writing. I write down today's date and time. Write down exactly what happened. Describe the photo in detail. And then, I start going backwards through my memory. Writing down every suspicious thing I can remember. Every late night, every cancelled plan, every lie that seemed small at the time. October 15th, she said she had an extra lesson, got home at 11. October 22nd, she claimed traffic was bad, arrived home after midnight. November 3rd, she forgot our dinner reservation because she lost track of time practicing. I fill page after page with dates and details, building a timeline of betrayal. And I realize, this has been going on for at least 4 months. Maybe longer. Maybe since she started these classes. And choosing silence over confrontation isn't weakness. It's strategy. I need people I can trust. People who won't try to talk me into giving her another chance, or convince me I'm overreacting. So I call my two closest friends, Nolan and Jasper. Guys I've known since college. Guys who've never liked Celeste much, though they've been polite for my sake. I tell them I need help with something serious. Ask if they can come over tomorrow. My voice must sound different, because they both agree immediately without asking questions. They show up the next morning, and I show them the photo. Show them my notebook. Explain what I'm planning. And their reactions range from shock to fury. Nolan actually stands up and starts pacing, says he never trusted her. Says he always thought she was using me. Jasper is quieter, but his jaw is clenched tight. Asks what I need from them. And I explain that I need proof. Need confirmation this is real. Need witnesses. Because Celeste is good at manipulation. Good at making me doubt my own perception. And if I'm going to do this, I need to be absolutely certain. They both nod, understanding without me having to explain further. And a plan starts forming. 2 days later, Nolan and Jasper drive out to the music studio. It's in a small strip mall about 45 minutes from our house, far enough that Celeste probably felt safe from being seen by anyone we know. They park across the street with a clear view of the entrance and wait. I'm at home trying to work, but really just staring at my phone. And then the text comes through from Nolan, "She's here." Followed by a photo. And it's worse than I imagined. Celeste is walking into the studio with the same man from the first photo. And they're not trying to hide anything. He has his arm around her shoulders. She's laughing at something he said, touching his arm in that casual, intimate way that speaks of familiarity. They look like a couple. Look like people who belong to each other. And my doubts die completely. There's no explaining this away. No rationalizing it as innocent friendship. This is an affair, plain and simple. And she's been living a double life, being his girlfriend during her music lessons, and my wife the rest of the time. Jasper sends another message, "Want us to confront them?" And I type back, "No. Just document everything. Because I'm not ready to show my hand yet." The next day, while Celeste is at work, I text Nolan and Jasper. Tell them it's time. They show up with boxes and trash bags, and we move through the house methodically. Room by room. Packing almost everything that belongs to her. Clothes from the closet, shoes from the rack, toiletries from the bathroom, her guitar and music books, photo albums, jewelry. Everything that's clearly hers. We work in silence mostly. Efficient and careful. No vandalism, no revenge. Just systematic removal of her presence from my home. Nolan finds her diary in a nightstand drawer. Looks at me, asking without words if I want to read it. And I shake my head no. Because I don't need details. Don't need to know how long she's loved him, or what lies she's told herself to justify this. I just need her gone. We fill box after box, and it's shocking how much space she took up. How thoroughly she'd woven herself into every corner of this house. By the time we're done, the bedroom looks empty. The bathroom counter bare. The closet half vacant. And it feels right. Feels like the physical space is finally matching the emotional reality I've been living in for months. We load everything into Nolan's truck and my car, a caravan of betrayal evidence, and drive to her mother's house across town. Her mother answers the door looking confused, probably wondering why 3 men are standing on her porch with boxes. And I ask if we can talk inside. We carry everything into her garage while I explain, calmly and quietly, that Celeste has been having an affair. That I have proof. That I'm ending the marriage. And I watch her face drain of color. Watch her sit down heavily on a storage bin. She doesn't yell or defend Celeste. Doesn't accuse me of lying or overreacting. Just sits there, stunned. Eventually, she asks if I'm sure. And I show her the photos on my phone. Show her the timeline I've documented. And she starts crying. Not loud sobbing, but quiet tears that speak of disappointment and shame. "I'm so sorry," she keeps saying. "I'm so sorry." And I realize she's apologizing for her daughter. taking responsibility that Celeste never will. I tell her I don't blame her. That this isn't her fault. That I just needed somewhere to bring Celeste's things. And she nods, understanding. Thanks me for being respectful about it, for not just throwing everything in the street. Back at the house, I start changing everything that gave her access to my life. I change the locks first. New deadbolt on the front door, new knob lock on the back. New code on the garage keypad. I change passwords on streaming accounts, on the Wi-Fi network, on shared subscriptions. I remove her fingerprint from my phone. Delete her face from photo recognition. Unlink our calendars. Each change feels like reclaiming territory. Like taking back ground I didn't realize I'd surrendered. I update my emergency contacts, my beneficiaries, my next of kin on work documents, crossing her name out and writing my brother's instead. I transfer money from our joint account into a new personal account, leaving only enough to cover her half of remaining bills. I cancel the credit card I gave her. I take her name off the utility accounts. And with each click, each signature, each confirmation email, I feel lighter. Feel more like myself. Like I'm peeling away layers of someone else's expectations and finding my own shape underneath. The house feels different now. Quieter, but cleaner. Empty, but honest. Nolan and Jasper volunteer for the next phase. They drive back to the strip mall where the music studio is, park near the main shopping area with clear sight lines, and wait for Celeste's lesson to end. I'm at home cooking dinner for myself, something she always said she didn't like, so I never made it. And my phone buzzes with updates. She just arrived. Parking your car. Then 15 minutes later, she's walking into the studio. He met her at the door. They kissed. Then an hour after that, lesson's over. They're standing outside talking. She keeps touching his arm, laughing. I read each message with detachment. Like I'm receiving intel about a stranger. Like this person they're describing has nothing to do with me. And in a way, she doesn't. The woman I married wouldn't do this. Wouldn't lie so easily. Wouldn't betray trust so completely. So this must be someone else. Someone I never really knew. Someone who wore my wife's face and played a role until she found something she wanted more. The final message comes an hour later, we have the car. Heading back to your place. And I feel a surge of satisfaction. Celeste had parked my car in the lot and gone inside for her lesson, probably assuming it would be right where she left it. Probably planning to drive home later and slip back into our house with more lies about how great her practice session was. But Nolan has my spare key. The one I'd given Celeste for emergencies. The one she'd carelessly tossed in a dish by our front door. And they simply walked up to my car, unlocked it, and drove away. It's not theft. It's my car. My name on the title. My insurance. She was just borrowing it. And now, I'm taking it back. They pull into my driveway 20 minutes later and hand me the keys. And the three of us stand there looking at my car in my driveway. And it feels symbolic. Feels like one more thing she assumed she'd always have access to, one more assumption proven wrong. Jasper grins and says, I wish I could see her face when she comes out and it's gone. And I smile too. Small, and cold. Because yeah. I wish I could see that too. I find her music binder in one of the boxes we packed. The purple folder she takes to every lesson, filled with sheet music and notes. And I write a message on a sticky note. Keep it simple and clear. I know you're sleeping with him. I don't care. Your things are at your mom's. You'll need a ride. Locks and codes are changed. Good luck. I stick it inside the front cover where she'll see it immediately next time she opens it. And I put the binder on the front porch. The only item I'm returning to her. The only thing she'll find when she eventually makes it back here, probably in his car. Probably angry and confused and looking for explanations. The note isn't cruel. Isn't dramatic. Just factual. Just the truth delivered plainly. And I know it will devastate her more than any emotional outburst would, because it shows I'm not hurt in the way she expected. Not begging or desperate. Just done. Completely and totally finished with her. My phone starts buzzing around 9:30 that night. Her name lighting up the screen over and over. I silence it and watch the calls pile up. 15, 20, 30 missed calls. Voicemails filling my inbox. Text messages coming through in rapid succession. First confusion, where's the car? Then panic, where are you? Why aren't you answering? Then anger, this isn't funny. Call me back. Then desperation, please, we need to talk. Please answer. But I don't respond to any of it. Don't even listen to the voicemails. Just let them accumulate like evidence. Like proof of her guilt manifesting in digital form. Because innocent people don't panic like this. Innocent people don't spiral into frantic calling when they come out of a music lesson to find a car missing. Innocent people would be concerned, but calm. Would assume mechanical problems or emergency. Would call worried, not angry. Her reaction tells me everything I need to know about her guilty conscience. She shows up at the house the next morning. I hear pounding on the door around 8 a.m. Her voice screaming my name, demanding I let her in. The neighbors are probably watching. Probably recording this on their phones. And I stay silent inside. Sitting calmly at my kitchen table drinking coffee. I've already positioned my phone to record audio. Already documented the exact time she arrived. Already prepared for this confrontation. She pounds harder. Screams louder. I know you're in there. Open this door. You can't just lock me out of my own house. But it's not her house. Her name isn't on the deed. She's just been living here. And she keeps yelling, her voice cracking with rage and panic. This is insane. You're insane. What is wrong with you? And I don't respond. Don't defend myself. Don't engage. Just let her exhaust herself against a locked door. After 20 minutes, the yelling stops. I hear her crying. Hear her sliding down to sit on the porch. Hear her making phone calls, probably to him, probably to friends, probably spinning some story where I'm the villain. And I don't care. Let her tell whatever story she wants. I have proof. I have witnesses. I have truth on my side. The messages change tone over the next few days. Suddenly it's all my fault. Suddenly she's the victim. You worked too much, one text reads. You were never emotionally available, says another. I felt so alone in our marriage, claims a third. And I read them with clinical detachment. Recognizing the manipulation, the blame shifting, the rewriting of history to justify her choices. She's trying to make this my fault. Trying to convince me, and probably herself, that my failings drove her into another man's arms. But I've been documenting everything. I pull up our bank statements and see how many date nights I planned that she canceled. I check our calendar and count the weekend trips I suggested that she claimed to be too busy for. I scroll through old messages where I asked about her day, where I tried to start conversations, where I reached out and got one-word responses. The evidence doesn't support her narrative. But she doesn't care about evidence. She cares about feeling justified. About maintaining her self-image as a good person who was driven to this by circumstance rather than choice. And I save every message. Every accusation. Every lie. Because my lawyer is going to love this. I meet with a divorce attorney. A woman Nolan recommended. Stern and experienced. And I walk into her office with my notebook, my phone full of photos and messages, my timeline, my witness statements from Nolan and Jasper. I lay it all out on her desk and she picks through it methodically. Asking questions. Taking notes. And after an hour she leans back in her chair and says, "This is the most documented case of infidelity I've seen in years." She's impressed by my preparation. By how thoroughly I've built this case. Asks if I'm in law enforcement or investigation. And I shake my head. Just an IT consultant who knows the value of evidence. She smiles at that, the first warmth I've seen from her, and explains how this will work. The filing, the service of papers, the likely outcomes. I ask about division of assets, and she says my documentation will help significantly. Courts tend to favor the non-cheating spouse, especially when the evidence is this clear. We discuss timeline, costs, strategy. And I leave her office feeling prepared. Feeling like I've thought through every angle. Feeling like I'm finally controlling a situation that's been controlling me. I go through our finances with surgical precision. I open a new account at a different bank. Transfer half of our joint savings, my half, what I contributed over the years. I change my direct deposit to the new account. I cancel credit cards we shared. I call our mortgage company and explain the situation, ask them to remove her access to the account. I do the same with utilities, with insurance, with everything we'd combined. And as I work through these practical disconnections, I realize something painful. How much I'd been carrying. How many bills I'd paid. How much of our life I'd funded. She had a job. Made decent money. But somehow I'd ended up covering rent, groceries, insurance, car payments, while her income disappeared into clothes and music lessons and, apparently, her affair. I'd been financially supporting both our lives, while she used her freedom to betray me. The unfairness of it settles heavy, but also clarifying. Because it means I'm not losing much by leaving. I'm gaining back resources that were only flowing one direction anyway. She sends a long message late one night. Her final attempt at reconciliation. It's 3 paragraphs of apologies and promises. She's sorry. So sorry. She made a terrible mistake. She wants therapy. Wants to work on us. Wants another chance. I read it carefully, looking for the words, "I'm sorry I cheated," or "I'm sorry I lied to you for months," or "I'm sorry I betrayed your trust." But they're not there. She's sorry for hurting me. Sorry things got complicated. Sorry we grew apart. But she never apologizes for the actual cheating. For the active choice she made repeatedly to betray me. She's apologizing for getting caught. For facing consequences. For losing the comfortable life she had while maintaining her exciting affair. And that absence, that missing accountability, tells me everything I need to know. Even now. Even facing divorce. Even having lost everything. She can't bring herself to own what she did. Can't admit that this was her choice. Her failing. Her responsibility. I don't respond. Don't waste energy explaining why her apology falls short. I just screenshot the message and send it to my lawyer with a note, Exhibit G. The divorce papers are served at her workplace. She's a paralegal at a small law firm, and the process server hands them to her at her desk. I know because she calls me immediately, voice shaking with rage. "You had me served at work? In front of everyone?" And I break my silence just to say, "You broke our marriage in his bed. I filed papers at your office. Seems proportional." Then hang up before she can respond. Because I'm done with conversations. Done with explanations. Done with her voice in my ear. The papers are clean and straightforward. Citing irreconcilable differences publicly, but including the adultery evidence in the filing. My lawyer explained we don't have to prove fault in our state, but having documentation helps with asset division. And Celeste is apparently blindsided. Not by the divorce itself, she had to know that was coming, but by how prepared I am. How final everything is. She probably thought she'd have time to negotiate. To manipulate. To talk her way into a better outcome. But I've left her nothing to negotiate with. Everything's already decided. Already documented. Already filed. Word spreads through our social circles fast. Friends I haven't talked to in months start reaching out. Some offering support, some fishing for gossip. And I keep my responses brief and factual. We're divorcing. She had an affair. I'm handling it. People who knew us as a couple start choosing sides. And I watch as people she considered close friends distance themselves. Mutual friends who'd been to our house for dinners, who'd celebrated holidays with us, they stop liking her posts. Stop responding to her messages. Because cheating makes people uncomfortable. Makes them question their own relationships. Makes them worry they might be next. And nobody wants to be associated with that. Her mother calls me. Apologizes again. Says Celeste tried to move back in, but she refused. Said she's ashamed of her daughter's choices. That she didn't raise her to be this person. I thank her for calling, for being honest. And she says something that stays with me: you deserved better than what she gave you. I hope you find it. And her voice cracks because she means it. Because she's losing a son-in-law she genuinely liked. And I tell her I'm sorry things ended this way. Sorry our families won't be connected anymore. And she says family isn't about blood, it's about character. And I've shown more character in this than Celeste ever did. The music teacher, the other man, he disappears the moment drama arrives. I hear through mutual connections that Celeste called him crying after being served. Expecting support. Expecting him to step up now that everything was public. But he blocked her number. Quit answering her messages. Apparently, he liked the affair when it was exciting and secret. Liked having someone else's wife worship him. But the moment real-life consequences appeared, he vanished. Didn't want the messy divorce. Didn't want the responsibility of being the reason a marriage ended. Didn't want a relationship that started with betrayal, because what does that say about trust? And Celeste is devastated. Realizes she traded a 7-year marriage, a home, financial stability, a man who loved her, for someone who wanted her only in stolen moments. Only when it was convenient. Only when there was no cost to himself. She gave up everything for nothing. And I almost feel sorry for her. Almost. But then I remember her laughing in that photo. Remember her lying to my face for months. Remember her blaming me for her choices. And the sympathy evaporates. She made her bed, literally and figuratively, and now she gets to lie in it alone. The court date arrives and I walk in calm. Wearing my best suit. Carrying a folder of documentation my lawyer said we probably won't need, but I brought anyway. Celeste arrives looking worn down, stressed. Her lawyer is a young guy who keeps glancing nervously at the evidence we've submitted. My lawyer does most of the talking. Presenting our case with clinical efficiency. Highlighting the adultery, the documented lies, the financial inequity. And Celeste tries to look sympathetic. Dabs at her eyes with tissue. But the judge barely looks at her. Too busy reviewing the timeline I created, the photos, the witness statements. When Celeste's lawyer tries to argue she deserves more of the assets, my lawyer calmly presents bank statements showing my contributions versus hers. Shows credit card bills I paid. Shows the mortgage I covered. And the judge nods, understanding without needing explanation. At one point Celeste tries to interrupt. Tries to speak directly to the judge about how she's sorry, how she made mistakes. But her lawyer actually puts a hand on her arm to stop her. Knows she's only making things worse. The whole proceeding takes less than 2 hours. Efficient and emotionless. And when we walk out, my lawyer says, that went as well as it possibly could have. The judgment comes through 3 weeks later. Clean and decisive. I keep the house. My car. My retirement accounts. My personal assets. Celeste gets her possessions. Her car, once she fixes it. Half of our joint savings. And in order to remove her name from any shared debts. No alimony for either party. No drawn-out payment plans. Just a clean split that acknowledges her affair and my evidence. My lawyer calls it a favorable outcome. Says the documentation made all the difference. Says most divorces are he said she said, but I'd turned it into black and white. Fact versus fiction. And facts won. I sign the final papers in her office, my signature steady and clear. And she shakes my hand, tells me I handled this with unusual grace. Unusual preparation. Unusual strength. Tells me most people fall apart during this process, but I stayed focused. And I thank her. Tell her I learned a long time ago that emotions are valid, but strategy is smarter. That I could have screamed and raged and fallen apart, but that wouldn't have changed anything. Wouldn't have undone the cheating. Wouldn't have saved the marriage. So I chose to control what I could control. And I controlled the outcome. 6 months later, I'm sitting in a new apartment. Smaller than the house, but entirely mine. Decorated with furniture I picked out. Filled with space that feels peaceful. I've sold the house. Didn't want to live in rooms haunted by her memory. Used the profit to buy this place outright. No mortgage. No debt. Just ownership. I've reconnected with friends I'd neglected during the marriage. Started hobbies I'd abandoned. Begun dating casually, nothing serious, but it's nice to remember what it feels like to be chosen. To be valued. To have someone actually show up when they say they will. I don't check Celeste's social media anymore. Blocked her months ago and never looked back. Don't need to know if she's happy or struggling. Don't need updates on her life. She's a closed chapter. A lesson learned. A reminder that sometimes, the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing that could have happened. Because I'm free now. In ways I didn't know I needed. Free from lies. From manipulation. From loving someone who'd stopped loving me back. I'm peaceful. Genuinely peaceful. And that's worth more than 7 years of pretending. Looking back, I see everything clearly now. She went to learn music, and I learned my worth. Learned that I deserved honesty. Deserved respect. Deserved a partner who showed up fully, instead of dividing herself between two lives. I learned that silence can be more powerful than confrontation. That preparation beats emotion. That documentation defeats deception. I learned who my real friends were. Who stood by me when things got hard. Who celebrated my freedom instead of pressuring me to forgive. I learned that walking away isn't weakness, it's self-respect. That choosing peace over chaos isn't giving up, it's choosing yourself. And I want to ask you something. If you found that photo on your phone, if you discovered your partner living a double life, what would you do? Would you confront immediately, or would you document and prepare like I did? Would you try to save the relationship, or would you walk away? Tell me in the comments, because I want to know. I want to hear your stories. I want to know if my approach made sense, or if you'd have done it differently. And if you're going through something similar right now, if you're sitting with that sick feeling of betrayal, if you're wondering whether to stay or go. I want you to hear this, you deserve better. You deserve honesty. You deserve someone who chooses you every single day, not just when it's convenient. And walking away from someone who betrayed you isn't giving up on love. It's making space for real love. The kind that doesn't require you to ignore red flags, or silence your instincts, or pretend you don't see the truth. So comment below. Share this if it resonated. Tell me what you'd do. Because stories like this, they matter. They remind us we're not alone in these experiences. They show us that surviving betrayal is possible. That life continues after heartbreak. That sometimes, the worst moments become turning points towards something better. She went to music class. I caught her cheating. And then, I chose myself. And I've never regretted it for a single moment.